Hey everyone, this is Cameron, the co-host and editor of Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to us. We are everywhere where podcasts can be found, and that includes YouTube, baby. Just as another reminder, we are on YouTube now. All of our episodes will upload the same time as the podcast versions do. And if you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the very vibrant world of animation. And now, on with this show.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And, of course, everyone's favorite Crazy Lemur, Bree.
Hey, what up, guys?
And, this is our review/discussion of Endless Cookie.
Okay, so where to start with this movie? So, one thing that Mike and I have rarely, if ever, talked about on the podcast are documentaries. Not documentaries about the making of animated films, like the one for Frozen or Waking Sleeping Beauty. This one is more like, it's a documentary about two brothers, or half-brothers, one indigenous and one white, as they talk about their childhoods growing up in isolated Shamatawa and in the 1980s Toronto. And we don't normally get to see a lot of these made. It's very much like a lengthier StoryCorp kind of experience, if you've ever seen their shorts and such, where they bring on two people and they talk for a few hours and then they pick like one story to focus on and then animate, because it'll be like, that's a pretty good story and such. And this whole movie was made within, like, the original plan, if the movie is to be believed, is that it was supposed to take 7 months, and then the brother is like, man, I should have said 7 years.
Yeah, I was reading up. I think the final movie ends up being like a 9-year production, because one of the brother directors, Seth, animated, I think, like 90% of the movie himself.
That makes sense. And then, like, one of the daughters, I think, of the brother who lives in the Shamatawa area of Canada, said, like, you started this project when I was 10, and now I'm 19. And again, y'all, something that a lot of animation fans don't seem to get. Animation is timely, and you're going to take a while if you're going to do something like hand animate something with these vibrant designs. It's like an unhinged Sesame Street cartoon.
In like the best way.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, before we were recording, I was actually doing a little bit of research on it. So this movie took so long, Seth had started in Flash and had to move to Adobe Animate and After Effects.
Oh.
Yeah, like, the good thing, you can't really tell except for, like, maybe the very end, because the consistency-wise, like, the animation is... It's just really well done for the tools that they had.
And this was one of the Contrechamp films in that category at Annecy this year. And it ended up being the big winner of that section. And the Contrechamp section is not just the kids' table main competition section. This is the category where you, like, show off the vibrant flexibility of animation and how this medium can be used in storytelling. And it's just so happened to be the winner of that category. And depending on the project and the year, of course, you don't normally see the Contrechamp winners get brought over here unless it's by, like, a very small distributor who could only release it on demand, or maybe like a one-day theater release. And I was curious because, again, we don't tend to talk about documentary-style features, and I tend to have a complicated approach that I obviously overthink about having to approach something like this, because there was a few years ago, Aurora's Sunrise, where it was about this one woman's journey from her home country during a genocide to the US and just the horrors that happened to her and her family and such. And I was just like, well, the animation is fine. I don't know how it would have looked if they just went with like archived or just stock footage or something like that. And I didn't want to come off like a jerk to say like, well, it's a very important story to tell, but it's not my favorite movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how people approach talking about documentaries for review. It's like, are you going to go through and nitpick or pinpoint, say like, yeah, well, this fact is false, and then this one is false? Because you have to work and make a narrative out of all these pseudo-dispirited recordings of the two brothers and friends and family to have some kind of point. And once we sat down and watched it, it was like, man, indie animation and foreign animation just keep continuing to kick ass this year, because this was a very big surprise and a delight, at least for me.
This was just an absolute delight to watch, and I think the reason why is because of all of the obstacles that were in the way of the filmmakers. Because, you know, they have, I think they said like 7 kids and 12 dogs, all like interrupting the flow of like the storytelling. But then because of how the movie is structured, all of that is incorporated into the movie so seamlessly.
Yeah, the editing was really on point. And, you know, what this movie kind of reminds me a lot about, Mike, I'm sure you've watched this, but to me, this kind of feels like a more ambitious Montage of Heck.
You know, it's been a while since I've seen one of those.
For context, what is that?
Montage of Heck is I think it was 2016 documentary about the life of Kurt Cobain, and they had like animated segments using Kurt Cobain's own personal recordings and like diary interviews and like archival recordings.
That's interesting. It reminds me of how in 2016 there was a documentary that took place in Austin because it was about the UT Tower shootings, and they rotoscoped it, the whole documentary and such. And that's what I really got from this, was a lot of a Richard Linklater vibe. Not just because it's like Boyhood, where it took 9 years to get this done and made, but just how it weaves personal family anecdotes with longer stretches of social commentary about the First Nations people and the struggles they've had to deal with. In some ways, it's like delightfully dark and very creative with how they approach that, especially with that one sequence with one of the kids playing video games, and it turns into a whole nostalgia of one of the earliest memes of the internet of all your base belong to us.
Yep.
With using Canada's government officials saying your land belongs to us. And like there's that whole sequence with Cookie where she's looking through all the frozen chicken patties items in the freezer section of the no other store. Oh, the humor in this movie is delightful. And you see a lot of like the big issues like the housing crisis, minimum wage issues, discrimination and such, and a lot of really heavy topics that Canada really has to take responsibility for, because as much as they would love to sweep it under the rug, it's horrifying, especially when you hear that one section of Canadian Idol, which is just a car stuck in idle in a parking lot, talking about how First Nations people were the most incarcerated people in the prison system. And it's like, that's terrifying and sad. Like, what the hell is wrong with us? But they never find I think what makes this movie work is the fact that it's still kept very lighthearted, even if it does skim through a lot of really tough subject matters.
I think that's why if you are from this area, you will probably pick up a lot more of like the details than someone outside of the Toronto area.
Well, it's funny because like what was it called? The NGA?
FG.
the NFG people who gave the delicious morsel of an art fund to our two directors to make this movie, which, again, would be really hella nice if we, as a country in the US, could get something like that. But no, we can't.
Yeah, no, we just have to listen to billionaires cry.
God, we're not going to talk about the whole Netflix, WB, Paramount thing, but good Lord.
It is like the world's worst love triangle.
Oh, God.
It's like the most sad Bridezilla segment that I can think of, like those artificial reality show drama beats, and it's just so sad. It's like, how dare you take this one billionaire's money, but not my billionaire's money that is partially funded through Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, I could go into it more, but it's like Yellow Sins are so far up everyone's ass because so much of it is smoke and mirrors. Because basically, and it, like, I don't think it's a serious offer because, I mean, WB's prerogative, and this is why Zaslav has not been fired, is because the shareholders in the company want to have WB be a streaming first company, which is why they've been trying to divest, like, their cable networks. And Comcast actually did something similar with, like, MSNBC, like, spinning that off and, like, a couple of their cable stations. So why, for like $30 billion more, would you want to be saddled with CBS? Like, to me, that makes like no sense when you actually think about it.
Yeah, but that whole thing's a freaking mess. And just like how the Canadian government has treated its First Nation of Indigenous people, so...
Beautiful transition, Cameron. 10 out of 10.
No notes. At first, there were moments I was thinking, like, why are all these moments here? But it's also like, it's like the organization that gave the directors the art grant. We're saying, like, why is this pizza section going on for so long? And the director goes, well, it's like a cultural touchstone in Toronto. Oh, cultural touchstone. Like, it's funny, the guy came off like he didn't partially believe it, or his tone of voice came off as like, oh, sure, buddy, yeah, sure, this pizza place was a cultural touchstone in Toronto, sure, buddy. Which, I'm sorry, I feel like if you're part of that organization, you would have grown up during that time period, would know about something like that. Because, yeah, I feel like every city, big or small, has like that one, like, neighborhood pizza joint or food joint where it might have not been like the best food or whatever, but it was such a pivotal, important moment for a lot of people growing up in that area that it is like a historical beat in that city or town's like history and such.
Yeah, where I'm from, there are certain cuisines that are like an actual staple of our area. I completely get where Pete's coming from.
Yeah, like the food wasn't great, but it was just something that connected a lot of us to. And I love the low-key Adult Swim vibe of some of the jokes that were here in this movie, especially with stuff like Canadian Idol being, of course, a parody of American Idol, but Canada, but not really a singing competition show.
It's literally just a car and idol.
Yeah. And then, what was the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire one? Like,
who wants to not be poor?
Be poor, yeah. Yeah, no, like, it definitely has a lot of, if you're nostalgic for, like, late 2000s, 2000, like, Adult Swim, like, singles era, like, 12-ounce mouse, like, that sort of shit, like, you would fuck with this movie really hard.
What's also delightful about this movie is it reminds me a lot of the Netflix series by Pendleton Ward, Midnight Gospel, where...
Yeah, I was about to say it does remind me, goddamn, so much of that, but in, like, a good way.
Yes.
Yeah, like, not in a, like, this podcast that Midnight Gospel is based on had some questionable people on it, but the only thing that people remember about it is that last episode where the host was talking to his mom, who was at the end of her life. And like I said, I'm not surprised that show didn't get renewed for a second season. I don't even think it was meant to be an ongoing series, but it had some people of questionable reputations on there, but that last episode is like the one that you remember, because what works about this movie and that one episode is the intimate personal story. It's like, yeah, the pizza place might not matter through the grand scheme of this area of Canada's history, but it's still an important story to tell, because why would you want to know only the big moments in history? There are a lot of smaller moments, good and bad, that happen that build up to the bigger moments.
Exactly.
And it's just a delightful visual look for this movie. It, like I said, it looks like, during the chat, I mentioned it looks like a Sesame Street animation, like from the 70s or 80s, or it looks like a vibrant, off-kiltered indie like adventure game world, because like the animation is not like the most fluid and expressive, but the designs and how the characters walk, like, I don't care that this was partially used in Flash and that they used rigs to do all this. Could you imagine animating half of these designs by hand?
That would be a nightmare, trying to do all of this by hand.
It's like a stoner's Muppet look, and to all the characters, like there's especially one character who's like a rubber band and such. And I love all the little side tangents that they would go on. Like, for the longest time, the whole thing that was connecting this movie was, what did the brother do when his hand got stuck in a trap? And I don't think there's really any, like, symbolic payoff for it. But I've had moments like that where I'm just trying to learn what the ending of the story is. And it's just like, oh, okay. But it's very charming in that regard. They'll talk about how this one guy went to jail, like never been to jail before, but because of like a moment of lacking in emotional judgment because of losing their father figure, shot their gun into the air and then got the police on him. And you don't even hear about this character again. It's just like a side story that your brother would tell you. Like, yeah, he just went in and out of prison for the, like, until today, like, in and out, in and out. It's like, yeah, phew, that sucks. Like, the movie does try to approach the, like, tougher subject matters, especially, like, with what happened to that one family member with the, what was it, like, some kind of medical issue where he sounded like Marlon Brando from The Godfather for a little bit?
Oh, yeah.
I think he had encephalitis.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, he just got kidnapped one day and sent to a, what kind of school was it? A recreation school? Or
basically, Canada has like this history of taking Indigenous children from their homes and putting them in the correct school.
Like, the director tries to talk about it, but it's so upsetting to the, like, the baby probably doesn't understand it, like, on a matured level, but it's extremely upsetting. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you, Canada? And it's like, I'm sure some people will be like, well, what about America? And it's like, yeah, no, what the fuck is wrong with any of us?
Seriously.
We will do some of the most inhumane shit to people because of the most racist and xenophobic of reasons. And it's horrifying that there are people out there being like, yeah, I don't see a problem with this. And it's like, you don't see a problem with taking Indigenous kids, just picking them out off the, like, out of nowhere, and then, oh yeah, by the way, we didn't see him until he was 19. Fuck you, government. Like,
the more I learn about how Canada has treated its Indigenous people, just the more upset I become, because like things like the correct school is just like, how did we let that happen?
Or like, oh yeah, we should give you land, but let's see, only 2 miles length and 1 mile wide. And was one, what was it, like a tribe of Indigenous people were forced to stay on like a 2 mile long, 1 mile wide.
Well, I think the difference is, as much as we know, we go, Canada, nice people, like, at least I feel like in the United States, we've partially reconciled with, like, what we did or at least acknowledge that it happened. So much in Canada they haven't.
Well, there's that whole thing where it's like, yeah, you could. A lot of us were brought in to be part of some committee about land redistribution, and they would pay some people. Like some guy walked in and got $80. What did y'all get? Well, some frozen meat and the frozen meat said, you are now contractually obligated because of this meat to vote for this candidate. And it's like, fuck. The human race is a horrifying species of animals, okay? So, like, we could do some horrible things. But like I said, I think what works about it is that it's such a personal, intimate look at this one person's history, lives growing up. Like, I love, like, when the one indigenous brother is like, yeah, I went through a phase where I drank a lot of tequila that made me more unstable. And the shirt just says tequila phase. And I love the moment where it's like, yeah, I broke into the home I no longer lived in and tossed the person out of their bed and fell asleep on it with my dog guarding me. And just because of the people that were in that neighborhood, they were like, oh yeah, they just called my dad. Not they're like, man, not the police. That's lucky. And then the brother goes, no, man, I'd rather have dealt with the police than my dad. Like,
yeah.
Like there's on an emotional familial level, there are some things like if you fuck up, I would have rather have dealt with the police than what is going to be coming from my dad. Like I love my dad. There's like we have an amazing relationship, but it's it's that emotional difference of messing up and then dealing with the police and then messing up and your family getting involved.
Yeah, that's basically like my relationship with my mom. Like you do not want to like get on her bad side.
Another little plot arc that is connecting this whole movie is just the family or the brother making dinner and how the movie ends with the family having a nice caribou dinner. And that one story of the brother being like, yeah, we observe and look at the caribou population that migrates through. And I was just standing still, and if you stand still long enough, the caribou are just like, oh, they're just standing still and doing their own thing, so we're going to do our own thing. And they just show all the caribou humping each other and such. Like this movie finds a way to have a lot of delightful visual gags in a art style that I'm sure if it was executed like in a wonkier way would have been like too busy looking, because like a lot of characters do not look alike, except for like certain family members and such, where they have very distinct details about them in their designs. And yeah, there are some moments where I was like, oh, this looks a little busy, but for the most part, it's not that distracting of an art style once you get past it and such.
If anything, even the busyness, it pulls you in more than it like takes you out.
Yeah, this movie very much operates like on vibes, and it pretty much sets like the vibe from like the first few frames on like, hey, this is the experience that you're getting. Like, if you're not into this, then you need to leave now.
Yeah, it's very unapologetic about that. It's like, if you're not enjoying this, I'm sorry, it's not going to change. We're not going to have like Sakuga anime action. Though they will have a great misunderstanding cop story where the cops were called and they're like, oh, look at all this blood on the ground. And then they followed, oh no, look at all the blood on the outside of the house. And then, of course, the house says, fuck off, pigs. And then it's like they're getting ready for like a long legs situation of just, there's going to be a dead body in the house. There's probably going to be someone waiting there to also kill us. And then they break in and it's just the what was it, the mom or the grandmother who
I think it's the grandmother.
Yeah, the grandmother cutting open a caribou that they hunted and then taking care of the stomach and then emptying out most of the stomach contents, putting the blood in, sugar, shaking it up, waiting for it to air dry. Golly, that did not sound delightful at all. Like,
yeah, no. I couldn't imagine that being any sort of delicacy.
But that caribou sounded good. Soup sounded pretty good, though. I actually like caribou. We have some, not well, we don't have caribou at the store right now, but we do have elk at the store that I work at. And elk and caribou are very delicious, but you have to be careful because there's a reason why when you're making stuff with it, you tend to cook it with either a lot of fat or you find ways to add fat to the meat. It's very lean, but it's delicious stuff, man. I met like a friend of mine or a family friend through my sister's time doing volleyball would make this venison jerky, and it was the best jerky I've ever had. It was so good that like every other jerky I've had since then has just been crap. Like it's like I'm never going to have that jerky again, and I'm extremely upset about it. I'm not even a jerky guy. And like right here, we're focusing on the movie, but we're also telling like little stories that connect to our personal histories of where we grew up and such.
Yeah, this is kind of the perfect podcast to just kind of go off the cuff and talk about whatever, because that is matching the energy of the movie.
Well, hey, can I share a story? Because when I do my animated documentary, this is what it's going to totally be. And it's the funniest story that you'll ever hear.
Shoot.
My grandfather's funeral. I promise this will be funny. So, my grandfather, because I had recently, for like various reasons, dropped out of my middle school. I was doing online homeschool, which ended up working out because my grandfather had cancer. So I was back and forth between southern Pennsylvania and like northern Pennsylvania, borderline, like the southern New York border. Anyway, after about a year, whatever, he passed. And this is basically like Pennsylvania. Like this is in the middle of like nowhere. So I'm at the funeral, standing next to my grandfather's casket, looking over at the funeral director. And then like all of a sudden, like the funeral director excuses himself. And I'm like with my mom and I think my aunt, I'm like, yeah, what the fuck is going on? And then I realize he like goes to the like other building next door and he's showing off like some furniture. It fucking dawned on me that it was one of those old time funeral homes. So for those who don't know, like in ye old days, a lot of times people who sold furniture also were in charge of funeral homes because he would like build the coffins and like the other stuff. So it's like a back and forth thing. But since it was the middle of like buttfuck nowhere, it was apparently still a thing.
That's
God.
wild.
Could you imagine, like, we are here to see today. Hold on. Walks out. Comes back 30 minutes later. Where were we? All right. Like, he lived a wonderful life. He is surrounded by many people who loved him. Hold on. Just leave for another. That's messed up.
I know, but this was like the crescendo of like two really like messed up like roller coaster years for me. And then like here's the kicker. I stand over my grandfather. I stare down and I say, thanks, Grandpa, because he knew I would be the only person that would appreciate the fucked up moment that was.
I feel like we all have family members who are like, or friends who are like, oh, they would get a kick out of this.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. And I love that one moment where they actually show the life pictures of the family members in this movie. And it's very sweet. I love that moment where it's like, yeah, almost everyone's in this photo and there I am in the front and one of the dogs is biting me. And all the dogs, I love. There's Cheech and Chong. There's Mr. Nutty. And Mr. Nutty is shaped like a peanut. I love that.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah, like he's an off-brand Mr. Peanut.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like if Mr. Peanut had a dog. It's like people already have like a weird time understanding how Goofy and Pluto are both dogs and live in the same universe, but Pluto is a pet dog. It's like that one scene from DuckTales, the reboot.
Oh yeah, where the duck pond and then the moon people are like staring down at like them feeding the ducks breadcrumbs.
Yeah. It's just like, what? Ow. Okay, whatever. Or it's like deep cut 80s animation. It's like watching the Cowboys of Moo Mesa and how, okay, everyone here is a cow or an animal of some kind from the West who herd cattle. What? It's like, fuck it, don't think too hard about it. That one moment where apparently Mr. Nutty took a shit and the kid's like, hey, look, peanut butter.
Yeah, that is something a kid would say.
Oh gosh. And the music's really good. It's got like a lot of like I feel like from the credits they only use like 3 different bands.
Something like that.
I forgot the names of them, but
I
they
think they're like
were
indie Canadian bands.
yeah, which is nice because then it helps give a flavor to this whole experience. Because again, when you have a point of view or something very specific to tell within your story, it makes for a better experience. It's like when I was watching Elemental, and Mike knows about this because I talked about this during the podcast when we first saw the movie. I still like the movie, but it would have been nice if either someone at Pixar or Disney said, can you make this more androgynously about the immigrant experience instead of specificities, even though it's like Peter Stone's own personal story and such. It's like,
But Cameron, we can't tell personal stories. Those aren't universal.
God, that stupid line. I am never forgiving Pete Docter or whoever at Disney said that because it's like a universal story is a universal story. It's not because it's a nebulous story. It's
like that doesn't even make sense, especially if you're like a writer or like a storyteller. Like Pete, you just said a fucking word salad.
yeah.
Everyone with a brain and who understands how writing works knows that the more specific the story is, the more relatable it'll be.
Like, I understand sometimes that nebulous universal experience can work. I still love Soul, warts and all, because I understand everyone has had that moment where they feel like, man, I'm not making enough with my life. And then you look back and enjoy the smaller moments. But there's something like greater, like, I hate to bring this movie up because it's become such a punchline with animation fandom. Mutant Mayhem, the TMNT movie. Like, yes, it is a movie about mutants, but it's also like very black coded in its storytelling and the dialogue and just how like it's very specific New York, like growing up, like in that kind of time period, and how like yes, it has like its own personal universal story beats of like fatherhood between Splinter and Superfly. But it's like it stands out more because like I said with Elemental, it's like someone from China immigrating to the US. Is this like Middle East?
Are they Irish? Like, who knows? Are they Italian?
It leans more like on an Asian coded like personality and mindset. But it's also like too nebulous to be like what kind of story is this? And like I said, I still love Elemental, but that was like one of the first times where it's like this could have been way better if it had a more direct identity with its story. It's like that's why people love Turning Red from the year before, because it was that director's specific story of growing up.
I mean, it was my story too. Like, I mean, there's a few years age difference, but you know, I read Rumiko Takahashi manga. Like, I was into anime. Like, I listened to boy band music. Like, that was pretty much like my experience growing up in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's funny how much the US entertainment system really and sometimes audiences too hate the fact that like, oh, this is a personal story. Well, how am I going to relate to it? And it's like you can relate to it through like a passive mean, man. It's not saying it's like with those people being like, well, I can't understand Turning Red's like story experience. You can't understand going through puberty and having a conflicting, not easy relationship with your mom or familial parental figure.
Like, that's a pretty universal story, but that's like, for me, you know, like personally, like Turning Red has been like the only Pixar movie that I've been able to connect with in a long while. And if you like watch that documentary that they had come up after the fact, like the fact that that movie got done so dirty, like, you know what the biggest crime of it is like they fucked like a really great Billy and Phineas, you know, soundtrack.
Yeah.
You don't do that to Billie Eilish and Phineas. You just don't do that shit.
Like, thank God Barbie came out the next year because, like, imagine if Turning Red was given, like, a traditional theatrical release. That would have been huge for Billy and Phineas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's just so asinine how people are like, well, this story is not about a middle-aged white guy, so I can't connect to the story. And it's like, oh my god.
You know what the crazy thing is? They always say this, like, 98 to 99% of the time, it usually involves either a woman or a minority.
Yep.
And it's so, again, it's asinine of how people think that narrowly about storytelling. I might not be a Japanese mom of wolf children, but I also get heavily connected to a single mom's struggle to raise two part wolf kids who are trying to find their identity of who they are as they grow up in the Japanese countryside. Yes, I'm not Japanese, but the story was incredibly touching. If you can't think outside of your extremely narrow-minded worldview, where the only thing you could connect with are mediocre Jason Statham action movies, kindly fuck off. Oh, God. It bugs me how narrow-minded people's view of art can be. And I take that, like, so personally when people pull that shit. Just the excuses people come up with. Because, yes, I am not Indigenous. I am not from Canada. I've never been to Canada. Apparently, Canada was expecting all of us to move up there back in 2016, but we just... It's like what Seth Meyers said. It's like, aren't you going... Like, did he win? Oh, yeah. Is it actually great? No. It's much worse with what happened. So, why aren't you coming up here? I guess we just don't want to live in fucking Canada.
No offense to any of our Canadian friends, especially our jukebox co-hosts.
I related to the story of these two brothers talking about growing up and them talking with their kids or just following the friends and like the subtle funny moments, like when two of the kids are just like, let's go smoke this fucking weed. And then the brother goes, I think I know where they're going. It's like, oh, wow, Sherlock, that didn't take, like, wait, you learned that in university or something? Which I think was meant to be a joke because the kids were so loud about it too. Like, just yelling, like, even after saying hi to one of their moms and such. Then, I love you, Mom. Okay, bye. See you when we get home. Let's go smoke this weed!
Yeah, that was great. You're like, I think I know where he's going.
And it's like, yes, they're building a teepee in the background. Like, does it, like, from an outside look, does it have any substantial meaning behind it?
No.
Maybe not, but it means a lot to them, and that's what makes the story special. These moments meant a lot to the directors, putting this multi-year project together and such.
Well, also, I think it's a brilliant, like, storytelling device to kind of show the passage of time.
Oh, yeah. And I love that moment where he's hanging out with one of the brothers who's obviously, like, playing Fallout. Or, I was just watching a video about this from Lazy Game Reviews, Wasteland, which was, like, the precursor to the Fallout franchise. And it was just like, so you're still making this movie? Like, you're not done even though the world's ended? Yeah, I got an extension. It's funny how, like, that the organization who granted the art grant or fund seemed pretty okay with the fact that this took 9 years, or maybe it was just like a joke. It's only supposed to take 7 months.
Well, there is a lot of meta commentary in this because of the nature of the project. But I also just love how the guy representing the NFG organization is just like a ruler.
Yeah.
Or like when the brothers talking about like people signing away their land, how they're like, you got to sign this here right now, or else like we can't, after today we can't help you, so we can give you a, like, you have to get your own lawyers and such, and the lawyers are all like clowns and they have clown sound effects, and that one's image of the government official with a giant shoe, like giant foot, basically about to step on the indigenous people, because that's what we do. The government of every nation is pretty much terrible to its indigenous people. So, I mean, like, really, I don't have much else to talk about. I think there are maybe a few points where it could have paced itself a little better. I think 90 minutes was a good length for this movie. Otherwise, I felt like if it went on any longer, I would have felt like, okay. Like, I would have, like, regressed into thinking, okay, well, if you were going to be 2 hours, you could have cut this part and this part shorter. But because of how it's paced, it feels longer than it is.
Yeah.
But I really don't have any major complaints. It's not one of my favorite movies of the year or anything, but it was a nice surprise gem in a year where the foreign animation scene has just been way more killer than it has any right to be. I mean, honestly, this might be on the same year as, like, 2023 had, like, The Boy and the Heron and Robot Dreams Alone, on top of, like, Spider-Verse and Nimona and Suzume. But, like, this year...
It's been hot garbage. Can I just, like, say that?
No, it has been. It's very disappointing how the US scene this year has been so creatively, like, undercut outside of K-pop and Zootopia 2.
Yeah, which, I mean, technically, K-pop Demon Hunters isn't even American. It's Canadian, if we want to be technical.
Oh, God. So, yeah, sorry if we make any passive slams against you, Canada. We are forever grateful for your contributions to K-pop Demon Hunters. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for saving us from a completely irredeemable year of, like, American animation, because, God, it has been rough.
I know, it's like, when we do our big catch-up episode where we watch, like, the twits and such, it's gonna be, like, we're gonna have, like, a chaser or something to watch something, like, delightful in between some of those, because I'm not rewatching the twits alone again.
Oh no, I will watch it with you, because at least I will make it entertaining.
Like, we'll pause and talk if we need to, but it's like, I mean, like, I'm hoping on a rewatch that it's better than I was thinking, but, you know, I watched it right before getting to LA for Animation is Film. So, like, even if people are shitting on Mamoru Hosoda's movie Scarlet is, like, 100 times better than the twits and other movies in context.
I mean, it's a Roald Dahl adaptation. It's like, you know, historically, have not been great.
I know. I feel bad that one of our friends wanted to get on a podcast to talk about the twits, and I didn't, like, I would have been fine with it if the schedules lined up for it, but then it got so long, like the plan to do it kept getting pushed back further and further. It's like, sorry, man, we just don't want to talk about the twits.
Yeah, and just to pull the curtain back, like, that's usually what happens with these episodes. Like, we try to plan them out, like, for a set schedule, but then life gets in the way, things happen, and the plans that we come up with at the beginning of the month are just completely not the same.
Yeah, exactly, because sometimes we'll go through months where it's like, oh, it's very easy to plan and schedule because we know what's coming out. And then some months will be like, hey, by the way, we're going to, like, dump truck y'all with a bunch of stuff. And it's just like, oh boy, okay. And I'm also really busy this month. So, I mean, that's what October was like for me. That's why I was like, let me get my ramble about Animation as Film out, because that's what I want to do, damn it. But otherwise, yeah, I'm very happy about Endless Cookie, and I think by the time this comes out, it will be out on digital. And I'd highly recommend it if you're down for this like low-key vibe of a movie where it's just two brothers talking about growing up in this time period and harshly criticizing the Canadian government.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a movie, like, again, like you, Cameron, I wouldn't say this is my favorite of the year, but this is, like, definitely one that I would not mind watching, like, a couple more times.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that, like, I'm gonna pay it forward and recommend it to other people. I'll probably show my brother when he comes in for Christmas, and I definitely want to show Nick this just because he'll probably pick up on more of the Canadian references than I did.
Exactly. Like, this movie is going to connect with more than just one type of person in the known universe. Like, already the ratings for this movie, while not big, is still leaning heavily positive. Like, at least like the most reviews are like 25% of the reviews on Letterboxd are in the 4-star range.
Nice.
So I'm glad that this, because again, something that you have to know going into festival season stuff, like from June to now and into award season, there's a huge difference between the reception you'll get from a festival to when a wider public audience gets their hands on your movie. And you can't really control the narrative of saying like, well, this was heavily beloved at the Cannes Film Festival, so obviously when it gets to audiences, it will be also amazing and beloved, which, yeah, that didn't happen with Kevin Costner's Western movie, Amelia Perez.
Oh, God.
So,
oh, yeah. Oh, the funniest thing about Amelia Perez is that it actually broke Brock's headphones. As for those who don't know, Brock is our co-host on Zeroing Out, and he just couldn't believe, because we showed him the vaginoplasty song.
I see.
Oh, God, I fucking hate that movie. God, if I never had to hear about Amelia Perez ever again, it would just be like amazing. And then like the Carla Sofia like saga, like just a beautiful disaster on like every level.
Oh, God.
And also, I remember the review. God, was it on like Nina's podcast? It was two former Drag Race stars had like a podcast, and they were like talking about like how much they hated that goddamn movie.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, it reminds me of like when Patrick Willems did his whole con video, and he was like, "Oh man, Amelia Perez is great. It's amazing." And that is what I heard, like, from the festival scene. Everyone was loving this movie, but then when it got out to, like, smaller releases or its limited Netflix theatrical release, everyone was like, this is the worst movie of the year. And I was like, no, come on, no. And then I watch it myself, and I'm like, okay, it's not great, but it's not the worst. And then I rewatch it again, and it's like, you know what? I get it.
It's like that scene from the Grass is Greener episode of SpongeBob where Mr. Plankton's like, "What? It's just an ordinary crabby. Oh my Jesus!"
Oh, you know, this is a beautiful segue to, you're talking about like overrated things that don't connect with a wider audience. You want to talk about the Golden Globes?
Oh my! You know what? Fuck it. Let's make fun of the Globes for the remainder of this episode.
Yes.
So first of all, who is so hell-bent in these award groups to make Elio a challenge? It's like, Fetch isn't going to happen. Stop trying to make it happen. Elio is not going to happen. And like Rotten Tomatoes is like, but it has an 83%. That means people loved it. And it's like, no.
An 83 Rotten Tomatoes literally means nothing.
Also, I do want to stress this point. Like, I'm going to be saying this throughout award season. Aside from the regional critics groups, critics have almost no impact on like the bigger awards, like the Golden Globes or the Academy,
or even like Rotten Tomatoes. Like, I wouldn't even say like Rotten Tomatoes is the biggest gauge. It's certainly the flashier one, but usually like the bigger indicator to me would be like Metacritic, because that's more, you know, the casual moviegoer to me.
I did get a huge kick out of the fact that the Globes were like, we're going to have a podcast category this year. And everyone was like, oh, God. Because with some of the shittier nominees were part of it. And some of those shitty nominees were like, okay, we're going to spend a lot of big money to get us nominated. They never made it. So,
which, you know, that might be the funniest things that the Golden Globes has done. You know, their new reform that's totally not corrupt. But I remember me and Gio jokingly said, you know, if we could get a Golden Globe, like, that would be objectively the funniest fucking thing that we could ever do.
Yeah, it's like the Globes have gone from one corrupt organization to the other corrupt organization, which is Penske Media.
But Penske's at least funnier.
True.
I mean, like, I'm sorry, it is like the category of box office success. Avatar, Fire and Ash. Motherfucker, that thing's not even out yet.
I think it like just had its premiere, but AKA, hey, good for Miley. I hope you get that Oscar nom, babe. You're not gonna win, but hey, you put your time in. Like, go get your bag, girl. But it's like, honestly, the Golden Globes at this point have like enough validity as like the People's Choice Awards. It's like so farcical.
But also, how can you have a cinematic and box office achievement when Neza 2 is not on there? You can have one for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which still underperformed, but you can't have Neza 2, the highest grossing movie of all time, like animated film of all time, on there.
I wonder if that's just because in the US it flopped like a fish. But again, because this is like the Golden Globes, which at least at one point in time was like its members were journalists who wrote for international publications. Like, yeah, no, it doesn't make sense why Neza 2 is being ignored for this specific category.
Which, not to sound like, one of those kind of podcasting assholes, that whole category is literally like a participation trophy.
It really is.
It's like, I'm looking at some of these, and it's like, really, like, I mean, I'm not surprised by some of them. Like, of course, Dwayne Johnson was going to get some recognition because he worked so hard, or as hard as he possibly could have, to try to make himself look like a dramatic actor for The Smashing Machine. And then it's like, I mean, I guess for the best animated one, the most bonkers one is the Demon Slayer nomination, because it's like, that's
I legit lulled.
That's
Same.
one. Like, the movie's reviews weren't even like, if Rotten Tomatoes was gonna show this off, it didn't even get the best reviews of.
It just got in because of its animation
And the fact that it made a boatload of money. So, like,
I mean, I'm not sure what its chances are of actually getting nominated at the Oscars or at a real awards show. Like, I'm sorry, that's really mean to say, but
You're not wrong.
Well, it's like what we talked about with how we were discussing, like, yeah, we don't know if any of the actual anime franchise films have a lick of a chance to get in. It's like Arco, Amelie, and K-pop Demon Hunters are already gobbling up the awards. Like, it's really between those three. Zootopia is just happy to be there, and Elio and Demon Slayer are just like, they ran out of seats at the participation table, so now we're stuck here. So
I'm really curious, like, how that's actually gonna pan out at like the Oscars and the Annies, because unlike decades ago, where believe it or not, at one point in time, the Golden Globes were actually a good indicator for the Academy Awards. That's been a hot minute since this happened.
Well, I remember back in 2016, they were like, one of the best animated features of the year, Illumination's Sing, is going to be Oscar nominated now. And it's like, no, it won't. It's not. It never did, because people were like, hey, let's actually nominate some actual real artistic movies like The Red Turtle and Kubo and the Two Strings and My Life as a Zucchini, and not just get the big studio films on there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. For as much people like the crap on the Academy, like, there are, like, for the most part, pretty consistent standards.
I mean, like, I'm hoping for the best with these nominations, and I'm a little, like, I find it a little funny that K-pop Demon Hunters is on here, like, in these cinematic and box office achievements, like, just for the box office achievement of like 20 million and such, which is like,
Hey, in this day and age, like, the people are starving, Cameron.
and
Yeah.
no, I get it. It's just funny to me about that. Honestly, I'm just waiting to have a moment to go see a handful of films like Hamnet, Sentimental Values, and the station, not Not The Station Agent, but that's also a really good movie with Peter Dinklage and Bobby Moynihan. But The Secret Agent with the guy who was Pablo Escobar in Narcos and Death and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Wagnamora,
Yeah.
and No Other Choice. Like, I've shown so many people the No Other Choice trailer, and they're like, well, I want to see that. And it's a great trailer because Park Chan-wook is just an amazing director with a true artistic eye for editing and shot composition. So, oh boy. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode. We've kind of gone on long enough. It's going to be a fairly short episode, but you know what? I love having these episodes from time to time because obviously we're going to dive into our rambly nonsense with the anime podcast next. So,
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that one. But until next time, Bree, where can everyone find you online?
Well, you can find me at crazylemur.bsky.social. I am also on Instagram at lemurs1. And I'm sorry, my dog is scratching her ear right now. She's very cute. So if you want to see pictures of her, just follow me there.
And Cameron?
you can find me on Blue Sky, like most social media platforms, mostly just Blue Sky, Twitter, and Instagram at camsiview.biz. I have my own website called camsiview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I am a contributor to Media Magpies, your new one-stop shop for pop culture and media and film discussions. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Renegade Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube at Renegade Pop Culture. Or you can listen to Bree and I on Zeroing Out on youtube.com/organoidzero. You can also find us on Podchaser and consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/renegade pop culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.